Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Political Vigilante. My name is Graham Elwood, and here is just an amazing example of the mainstream media when they cover what is going on in the Middle East, specifically Yemen. They conveniently leave out America's role in this. Here is a headline from a story, an editorial in the Los Angeles Times, and it's by the Times editorial board. Yemen is on the brink of collapse, and our allies, the Saudis, are to blame. Okay, so I guess good on you for pointing out the Saudis in your title. But let's look at this thing, and it's not very long. It's a pretty short piece here. And this is what it says. All right, let's just go into what it says. Saudi Arabia has been fighting a long and brutal war in Yemen against Houthi rebels who ousted the Saudi-backed central government in 2014. More than 10,000 civilians have died in the conflict. Over 3 million have been displaced. Millions face starvation. The Saudis have been accused of violating the rules of war and taking insufficient steps to protect civilians, who have been killed in mosques and at funerals and on the streets. Now, thanks to the destruction of local water and sewage infrastructure, the world's largest cholera epidemic has infected 300,000 people and continuing to spread at a rate of 5,000 new cases a day. Saudi Arabia has been fighting. What? We've been in Yemen since 2010. Chelsea Manning talked about this and got thrown in jail. We're funding all of this. What's the next paragraph? Despite all this, the Trump administration has promised that the U.S. will provide Saudi Arabia with $110 billion in weapons, leading human rights groups and others to call the U.S. morally complicit, a possibly legal complicit in the loss of, possibly legally complicit in the loss of civilian life. Possibly? Where the fuck have you been, LA Times? Oh, and there's no mention of how Obama gave $100 billion, right? There's no mention of that. Trump gave them $110 billion in weapons. Obama did $100 billion. Where there's no mention of what Obama did. We've been helping this for years. This is how the Saudis respond, and this just shows you how much bullshit journalism is being done here. They just put a little line in there, human rights groups and others to call the U.S. morally complicit. And possibly legally complicit. So they're still casting doubt. Some human rights groups, you know how they overreact when U.S. cluster bombs that we give the Saudis kill civilians. The fuck are they talking about? In response to the backlash from human rights organizations around the world and to help make the arms deal more politically palatable, the Saudis have put forward two face-saving measures in recent weeks. The country's crown prince promised to provide $67 million to the United Nations for cholera treatment, and the Saudis have agreed to engage in a $750 million multi-year program to train its air force on how to avoid civilian casualties. Oh, that drives me insane. Not what we're doing is awful and evil and wrong. Not the U.S. has been completely complicit in this. We're going to spend $750 million to show our Air Force how to not kill as many civilians. Nobody thinks that's insane. No one at the LA Times thinks that it's insane. Right? This reporter, this op-ed piece isn't like, whoa, this is an editorial, right? This is an editorial part of the paper. This is where the journalists are supposed to go, what the hell are they talking about? First of all, U.S. has been involved for so bang, 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 bang. Then once you paint the whole picture, the only time I can find any news about the U.S.'s involvement in Yemen is through like The Intercept or Truthdig or someplace like that. The LA Times won't. And what do they do? Because the LA Times, primarily their readership is mostly liberal people, neoliberals in Los Angeles, right? LA is a very blue neoliberal state. These people that think Kamala Harris and Nancy Pelosi are hashtag resisting, right? So they'll read this and say, oh, it's Trump. Oh, Trump. As I've said numerous times, and have given stat after stat after fact after fact after stat after fact after stat. Obama took what Bush did and, the taking away our privacy that Bush did after 9/11 using the Patriot Act, the fact that we don't need to go to Congress for war anymore. We can just say, oh, it's terrorism, so we can just do whatever the hell we want. We don't have to ask for permission from Congress or from the people of America. We just go in there and just start blowing shit up. There's no mention of any of that in here. This is such irresponsible. And the title is, oh, our allies, the Saudis. Oh, wow. And it's more about, oh, Trump. There's not one mention of Obama's giving $100 billion. Not one. Not one mention of how we've been involved in this for a long time. It's unbelievable to me. In the long run, the conflict in Yemen requires a negotiated political solution, not a continuation of the failed Saudi military strategy, which has not achieved its objectives. In the shorter run, there are steps that could help reduce the violence and alleviate the suffering. Yeah, like America not funding the Saudis. The Saudis give us oil, and we give them weapons, and we back them with everything, and let them do this shit. And we're involved in this. Possibly legally complicit? No, this is absolutely America's proxy war in Yemen. It's unbelievable. On Friday morning, the House of Representatives passed several amendments to the National Defense Authorization Act that call for greater congressional oversight on how U.S. weapons are being used in Yemen. One amendment introduced by Rep. Ted Lieu requires the Departments of State and Defense to report to Congress every 6 months on whether the Saudis are indeed bombing fewer civilians. Not no more, not stop it, not it's over, not it's morally reprehensible that we're involved with, but just fewer. Just bring the civilian casualty numbers down a little bit. This is how morally bankrupt this country is, how its politicians are morally bankrupt, its mainstream media is morally bankrupt. Just get the acceptable losses to a number where we can all handle. Does that work for you? If more of your friends and family, just fewer of your friends and family were getting bombed and killed in your neighborhood, in whatever nice town you live in, does that work for you? We just need to keep track so we can get those civilian numbers down. We're going to spend $750 million not on feeding and clothing and rebuilding the infrastructure of Yemen. How dare they go against the evil? The fucking Saudis are evil, right? The 9/11 terrorists all came from Saudi Arabia. They commit human rights atrocities all the time, but because they have a lot of oil, we back them. This is an important step toward ensuring that our partner in the Middle East understands exactly where we stand. $110 billion in weapons is not a blank check. Oh boy, that's a firm statement you're making, LA Times editorial board. Hey, you better toe the line when we give you $110 billion in weapons. Wow. So you gave a state that has a royal family that can do whatever the hell it wants? There's a video of a woman walking around in Saudi Arabia in a miniskirt, and the Saudi government is trying to track this woman down because she should have been fully covered. So that's how the Saudi government, they cut off people's hands, they treat women, anybody, they do whatever the fuck they want, and we're going to give them, it's like, what if we just gave the Mexican drug cartels just hundreds of billions of dollars in weapons, but told them you better play nice. Use these for self-defense, not your own. Don't use it to kill other drug cartels and execute civilians because you need more drug money and and land to grow drugs. And then when the drug cartels do this, whoa, we need to have a law. We need to pass an amendment to this the NDAA, which gets passed every year, saying just keep the number of civilians who kill lower. That's how insane what we're doing is. Completely insane. Oh, and Ted Lieu is he's going to be a big hero Democrat resisting to Trump. Bullshit. It's more bullshit. The LA Times is bullshit. The Democrats putting this bullshit. It's the Second Amendment saying kill people a little more humanely and kill a couple few of them. How about none of this? This is disgusting. It's more evidence of bullshit.